Hey y'all, today I'm going to be doing the My Intimidating TBR tag. This tag was created by Lindsay Ray, and I was tagged by her because she tagged anyone who has more than 60 books on their TBR, and I definitely do. So I will leave links down in the description to both the recent video that she made redoing this tag and her original video where she created this tag. And all the questions on this tag are about your TBR and different reasons why you haven't read books that are currently on your TBR. So that being said, let's just jump into it. So question number one is, what book have you been unable to finish? And this one was super easy. It's definitely The Queen of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I have started this book 2 or 3 times at this point, and I've enjoyed it both times, but for some reason or another, I've put it down each and every time that I have tried to pick it up. The last read through, I got to page 101. That seems to be kind of the theme. I get somewhere around 100 pages in, and I set it down, and it's not any book-related reasons, I don't think. I've just started this book so many times and have not been able to finish it. So question number 2 is, what book haven't you read because you just haven't had the time? And for this one, I decided to go with S by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. S is a book that really intrigues me, and it's one that I've been wanting to read for quite a while, ever since I first heard of it. But it's a very complicated book to read, and so it's going to take a while to get through it, and I'd probably have to read it twice. So yeah, essentially the way this book works is there is a book called The Ship of Theseus, and in this entire story of S, 2 people are writing back and forth within this book. So there's not only the story of the Ship of Theseus, but there's also the story of these 2 people communicating back and forth within the book. And it's told through notes and like things stuck inside the book. So it seems really cool and interesting, but it's going to take a while to read it, and probably 2 read-throughs, or like reading a page and then reading the margins of the page and then reading the page and then reading the margins of the page and then reading the page and then reading whatever's stuck in the page. It's like, it's gonna take a while. Question number 3 is, what book haven't you read because it's a sequel? And there are several that I could pick from because of this shelf right here, but the one that I decided to go with was Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray. I loved The Diviners when I read it back in 2014, and I just haven't jumped into Lair of Dreams for various different reasons. On the one hand, I kind of have forgotten some of the stuff that happened in The Diviners, not the overarching plot, but some of the minor details that are probably going to come into play. And on top of that, The Diviners was just such a succinct story, like it was kind of an entity unto itself. And so now reading this kind of seems like an enigma because I have no idea where the series is really gonna go from there. That being said, I'll probably eventually just reread The Diviners or find a summary online or something and then jump into Lair of Dreams, because I did really enjoy the first book and I'm curious to see what happens in this one. Question number 4 is, what book have you not read because it's brand new? And this is another easy one because A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab just came out and I have not read it yet. I pre-ordered it, I got it the day that it came out, and I just haven't jumped into it yet. It is definitely high up on my TBR, and it's definitely something that I want to jump into very soon, but I haven't yet. So question number 5 is a book that you haven't read because you read another book by the same author and didn't enjoy it. Now this one was a little bit of a stretch because as I looked at my TBR shelf, there weren't really any books on that shelf that were by authors whose other books I didn't really enjoy, but I did find one that I put in my unhaul stack that is essentially put in that stack for this reason. So I'll go ahead and drag it out of that stack and show it to you. And that is by Veronica Roth. I read the entirety of the Divergent trilogy and I liked the first book and I felt that the series just kept going downhill. And honestly, that is why I decided not to read this. It's not that I didn't like 4 as a character. He was probably my favorite character in the series, although honestly, I'm not incredibly attached to any of the characters in the series, including him. Anyway, the only reason that I have not read this and do not plan to read this is because the series just went so downhill for me. So this kind of counts for that, and this is the only book that I really had to count for this. Question number 6 is a book that you haven't read because you're just not in the mood for it. And the book that I chose for this one was The Martian by Andy Weir. This is one that I definitely want to get to eventually because I do want to see the movie and I've heard such great things about the book. But I just haven't been in the mood for it. I haven't even considered picking it up. Like most of the books on the shelf I've looked at some point in the past few weeks and been like, meh, maybe I'll pick that one up. But this is not one of them. Just for some reason, I just have not been in the mood to read this one. I'm sure that once I am in the mood, I'll pick it up immediately and be like, yes, I need to read this. But right now, I'm just not in the mood for it. Question number 7 is, what book haven't you read because it's humongous? And this one was possibly the easiest one on the entire list. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This book is massive. It is at least 1,000 pages long. It is huge, and I know that it's great because I've heard so many people say that it's great, and I've never heard a bad review of this book, but it's massive, and I just am not terrified. The big books don't terrify me. It is just a major time commitment, and I don't know that I can do that right now. Like, it's just so big, and it's a little intimidating. It's gonna take a long time to read this. Maybe I should have used this one for the I don't have time for it one, but I mean, it is massive, so it fits this one better anyway. Question number 8 is a book that you haven't read because it was a cover buy that ended up having poor reviews. And once again, I didn't really have a book that like really well fit this one, but the closest that I had was Landline by Rainbow Rowell. Now, I don't think this one has gotten awful reviews, but the main reason that I haven't read this one yet is because I've heard mixed reviews about it. Like, it's definitely a Rainbow Rowell book that I am curious about and want to get to, but I have heard more mixed reviews on this one than I have about most of her other books. And question number 9 is, what is the most intimidating book on your TBR pile? And honestly, this is another one that is an absolute no-brainer because it is the book that I always think about when I think about my most intimidating book on my TBR. And that is Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Not only is this book extremely massive, just like The Way of Kings, but it has the added bonus of being very confusing and very hard to get through and having a ton of footnotes and you having to flip to the back and back to what you're reading. And it's supposedly just a very complicated book to read, on top of the fact that it is massive and over 1,000 pages long. It sounds really intriguing, and you know, it's one of those books that makes you feel real smart once you've read it and understand it, but it just is terrifying. But yeah, this one is definitely the most intimidating book on my TBR. And like Lindsay, I'm also going to tag people in a way that is related to this tag and say that if you have read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is one of my most intimidating books on my TBR, you are tagged to do the Intimidating TBR tag. So that is it for the My Intimidating TBR tag. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!